The worst thing about discovering your sister sabotaged your wedding isn't the lost deposit or the frantic calls to guests. It's realizing that the person who's supposed to have your back just twisted the knife into it. I'm Roslyn, and I was standing in my restaurant's kitchen when the wedding venue called. I'm so sorry, but we received a cancellation email from you last week, the coordinator said, her voice dripping with rehearsed sympathy. We've already booked another couple for that date. My hands trembled as I gripped my phone. I never sent a cancellation email. It came from your account. I can forward it to you if. Please do. I ended the call and slumped against the steel prep table, my pristine chef's whites suddenly feeling too tight. Hey, you okay? Quentin appeared beside me, his familiar cologne mixing with the aromas of sautéed garlic and fresh herbs. You look like you've seen a ghost. I showed him the forwarded email. There it was, a perfectly worded cancellation, supposedly from me, sent from my account. But I noticed something. A telltale signature phrase Hayden always uses. Warmest regards. My sister's digital fingerprint, clear as day. I'm going to kill her, I whispered. Quentin wrapped his arms around me. Let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe. No, this is classic Hayden. Remember last Christmas when she accidentally told Mom about my tattoo right before the family photo shoot? Or when she happened to mention to Dad that I took out a loan for the restaurant? The kitchen door swung open. Mallory, our family friend and regular customer, bustled in with her usual energy. Roslyn, I just got the most gorgeous invitation to Hayden's engagement party. Did you see yours yet? My stomach dropped. What engagement party? Mallory's smile faltered. Oh, I assumed you knew. It's next month at the Metropolitan. Very fancy. William's family is flying in from London. I forced a smile. How wonderful. After Mallory left, Quentin studied my face. I know that look. What are you thinking? I'm thinking. I picked up a knife and started chopping carrots with precise, aggressive strokes. That my dear sister needs a taste of her own medicine, and who better to serve it than a chef? Roz. Don't Roz me. You know what this means to me. This wedding was my chance to prove to my family that I'm more than just the black sheep who chose pots and pans over law school. The kitchen timer dinged, and I moved to check on my signature bourbon-glazed short ribs. The rich aroma filled the air, reminding me of Sunday dinners at my grandmother's house before she disappeared from our lives. Iris had been the only one who supported my culinary dreams. My phone buzzed. A text from Hayden. Got some bad news about your venue. So sorry, but everything happens for a reason, right? I showed Quentin the message. See, she's not even trying to hide it. What are you going to do? I pulled out my grandmother's old recipe book, its pages stained with decades of cooking experiments and family secrets. I'm going to offer to cater her engagement party. Free of charge, of course. As a gesture of sisterly love. That sounds suspiciously generous. Oh, it will be generous. I'll make sure every single dish tells a story. About our family, about Hayden, about all the little secrets she thinks nobody knows. The kitchen door swung open again, this time revealing my mother, Violet. Roslyn, darling, I just heard about the venue. Such unfortunate timing, especially with Hayden's wonderful news. I wiped my hands on my apron. Yes, wonderful news. In fact, I was just about to call her. I want to offer my services for the engagement party, my gift to the happy couple. Mother's perfectly maintained eyebrows rose. That's unexpected. Are you sure you can handle such a high-profile event? Mother, I run one of the most successful restaurants in the city. I think I can handle an engagement party. She pressed her lips together. Well, if you're certain, just please, nothing too experimental. You know how traditional William's family is. Don't worry, Mother. Every dish will be absolutely unforgettable. After she left, Quentin touched my arm. Are you sure about this? I opened my grandmother's recipe book to a particular page. Her infamous truth-telling curry, the dish she made when she wanted to spark confrontation. Sometimes, I said, running my finger down the ingredient list, revenge is a dish best served not just cold, but with surgical precision. My phone chimed again. The invitation to Hayden's engagement party had arrived in my inbox. I smiled, already mentally crafting a menu that would make Gordon Ramsay proud, and my sister very, very nervous. Let the cooking begin. You're doing what? Hayden's voice crackled through my phone speaker as I prepped for dinner service. Are you serious? Completely serious. Consider it my engagement gift. I balanced the phone between my ear and shoulder while whisking a béarnaise sauce. Unless you don't trust my cooking? No, it's not that. She hesitated. It's just unexpected, especially after the whole venue thing. Water under the bridge, I lied smoothly. Besides, William loves my food. Remember when he came to the restaurant opening? Fine, she said finally. But Mother wants to approve the menu first. I smiled at the sauce, now perfectly emulsified. Of course, I'll have it ready by tomorrow. After hanging up, I pulled out my grandmother's recipe book again. Mallory appeared at my side, eyeing the worn pages. I remember that book. Iris used to create the most amazing dishes with the most interesting stories behind them. That's exactly what I'm counting on. I flipped to a bookmarked page. Remember her Revelation risotto? Mallory's eyes widened. The one she served the night your father's affair came out? Rosalind, you're not planning a menu that speaks volumes? That's exactly what I'm planning. I showed her my draft. First course, bitter truth salad with hidden secrets vinaigrette. You're terrible, Mallory laughed, then grew serious. But be careful. Revenge has a way of burning the cook. Speaking of burning, I rushed to rescue a pan of caramelizing onions. Did you ever find out why grandmother left? Mallory shook her head. She just vanished after that last Christmas dinner. Your mother never talks about it. The kitchen door swung open, and William walked in. My future brother-in-law looked nervous, tugging at his tie. Rosalind, got a minute? I nodded to my sous chef to take over and led William to my office. What's up? I heard you're catering the engagement party. He sat down, fidgeting. Look, I know things between you and Hayden are complicated. Complicated is one way to put it. I leaned against my desk. Did she tell you about the wedding venue? His face fell. She did, after the fact. I tried to talk to her about it, but that's just Hayden being Hayden? She's under a lot of pressure, he said defensively. Her firm's making her junior partner, the wedding planning, your mother's expectations. I snorted. We all have pressure, William. Some of us don't sabotage our siblings because of it. Just promise me the menu won't cause drama. I smiled sweetly. Would I do that? After he left, I returned to the kitchen and pulled out my phone, scrolling through old family photos. There it was, the last Christmas with grandmother Iris. She'd made her famous Truth Teller's tiramisu that night. The next morning, she was gone. Quentin found me still staring at the photo. That's quite a thoughtful look for someone planning revenge. I'm crafting the perfect menu. I showed him my notes. Each dish represents a family secret or scandal. The appetizer, stuffed mushrooms just like the ones served the night Hayden crashed Dad's car and blamed it on me. The soup, a recreation of the bisque from the dinner where Mother announced she'd lost grandmother's inheritance. Roz, Quentin touched my shoulder. Maybe instead of serving revenge, you could try serving forgiveness? Forgiveness doesn't teach lessons. I pulled away, reaching for grandmother's book again. A yellowed envelope fell from between its pages. The letter inside was in Iris's elegant handwriting. My dearest Rosalind, cooking isn't just about feeding bodies. It's about feeding truths. But remember, the sweetest dishes are those that heal, not hurt. When you're ready to understand, find me at the Crimson Rose. The Crimson Rose? Quentin peered over my shoulder. Isn't that the restaurant review column in the Times? My heart stopped. The one written by IP. The initials hit me like a lightning bolt. Iris Parker. My grandmother is the most feared food critic in the city. Plot twist, Quentin whispered. I grabbed my laptop, pulling up every review IP had written. There it was, subtle references to family recipes, techniques I recognized from my childhood. How had I never noticed? My phone buzzed. A text from Hayden. Mother wants to discuss the menu tomorrow. Breakfast at Café Laurent, 9 a.m. Don't be late. I looked at my draft menu, then at grandmother's letter. Maybe it was time to adjust the recipes. After all, the best revenge might not be serving cold dishes, but hot revelations. Change of plans, I told Quentin, pulling out a fresh notepad. This menu needs to do more than expose secrets. It needs to bring my grandmother back to the table. Now that, he said, kissing my cheek, Sounds like a recipe worth following. I began to write, each dish now a breadcrumb trail leading to the truth, and maybe, just maybe, to Iris herself. Café Laurent buzzed with morning energy as I slid into the booth across from my mother and Hayden. My proposed menu sat between us like a loaded gun. Spiced memory lane mushrooms. Mother's perfectly manicured nail tapped the first item. That sounds provocative. They're stuffed with aged Gruyere, I said innocently. The same kind we had that night Hayden took Dad's Mercedes for a joyride. Hayden's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. That was years ago. The statute of limitations on lying never expires, sis. Girls, Mother warned, scanning the next item. Truth and consequences, bisque? Rosalind, what exactly are you trying to do here? Create a memorable menu. Isn't that what you wanted? A waiter appeared with fresh coffee. As he poured, I noticed his name tag, IP. My heart skipped. He was older, with silver hair and familiar eyes that crinkled at the corners. He winked at me before disappearing. The main course, Mother continued, oblivious. Grandmother's secret recipe rack of lamb. With her special herb crust. I watched her face carefully. You know, I found some interesting letters in her recipe book. Mother's hand trembled slightly. That old thing? I thought I told you to throw it out. Funny how you wanted me to dispose of our only connection to Iris. I leaned forward. Tell me, Mother, why did she really leave? This isn't the time or place. She stood abruptly. Modify the menu, make it less personal. Hayden, come along. As they left, the silver-haired waiter returned. More coffee? No, thanks. But you can tell my grandmother her disguise needs work. He smiled. I'm afraid you're mistaken, miss. But I do have a message from IP. He slipped me a folded note and walked away. The paper felt heavy in my hands. The truth, like a good souffle, rises best when given proper time and temperature. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., the Crimson Rose office. Back at my restaurant, I threw myself into menu testing. Each dish needed to be perfect, both in taste and message. The mushrooms sizzled in the pan, their aroma bringing back memories of that night 12 years ago. I swear, Dad, Rosalind took the car. Hayden had cried, her designer dress torn and muddy. I tried to stop her. Dad had believed her. He always did. Those smell amazing, Quentin said, entering the kitchen. But you look troubled. I found grandmother, or rather, she found me. I showed him the note. I'm meeting her tomorrow. Are you ready for what she might tell you? Before I could answer, William burst through the door. Rosalind, we need to talk. About? Hayden's been crying all afternoon. She says you're trying to ruin her engagement party. I handed him a spoon of the bisque. Taste this. He did, his eyes widening. It's incredible. That's grandmother's recipe, the one she made the night she confronted Mother about stealing her inheritance, money that was meant for both Hayden and me. William sat heavily on a prep stool. What inheritance? Exactly. Mother never told us. But I found the letters. Grandmother left each of us a trust fund for our dreams. Mine for a restaurant, Hayden's for law school. But Hayden's parents paid for law school. Did they? Or did they use her trust fund and hold it over her head ever since? Understanding dawned on his face. That's why she's so desperate to please them. The kitchen door swung open again. This time it was Mallory, holding a magazine. You need to see this. The new Crimson Rose review just dropped. I grabbed it, scanning quickly. It was a review of my restaurant, written with intimate knowledge of my techniques. The final line made my heart stop. Like her grandmother before her, this chef understands that every dish tells a story. Some stories, however, are still waiting to be told. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The souffle is rising, dear one. Are you ready to learn why history repeats itself in your family? I have to go, I said, grabbing my coat. Quentin, can you handle dinner service? Where are you going? William called after me. To get some answers, and maybe... I paused at the door to find out why my sister really sabotaged my wedding. The spring air hit my face as I stepped outside. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., I'd finally face my grandmother. But tonight I had recipes to perfect. Each one needed to be more than just delicious. They needed to be keys unlocking decades of family secrets. Because something told me that Hayden's betrayal wasn't just about sibling rivalry. It was about a pattern, a cycle of lies and manipulation that started long before either of us was born. And I was going to break it, one dish at a time. The Crimson Rose office was exactly what you'd expect from the city's most feared food critic. Minimalist, elegant, and slightly intimidating. But instead of my grandmother, I found an empty desk and another note. The engagement party starts in an hour. Time to serve some truth. I rushed to the Metropolitan where my team had already set up. The appetizers were arranged perfectly, each mushroom cap a tiny bomb of revelation waiting to explode. Everything's ready, Quentin said, adjusting his tie. But are you sure about this? Before I could answer, Mother swooped in, examining the displays. The mushrooms looked different than what you described. Special recipe, I smiled. Dad's favorite, actually. From that night Hayden borrowed his car. Mother's face tightened. Ancient history. Is it? Because I have some fresh history to discuss, like how Hayden accessed my email to cancel my venue. Lower your voice, she hissed. Guests are arriving. They were indeed. London's elite mixing with New York's finest, all here to celebrate my sister's engagement. William's family arrived in a cluster of perfectly tailored suits and posh accents. The first course went out. I watched from the kitchen door as Hayden bit into a mushroom, her eyes widening in recognition. She excused herself from the table and made a beeline for me. That filling, it's exactly like the ones grandmother made that night? Yes, funny how taste can bring back memories, isn't it? Stop it, she whispered. This is my engagement party. And that was my wedding venue. William appeared behind her. Everything okay? Your fiancé was just about to explain why she sabotaged my wedding. I handed him a mushroom. Try it. It's filled with truth and consequences. He took a bite, then froze. This taste... Hayden, it's like that dinner at your parents' house when you told me about the car incident. What car incident? His mother asked, joining us. Nothing, Hayden said quickly. Oh, let me tell the story, I offered. It's about family loyalty and lies. Roslyn, please. Hayden's voice cracked. Not here. The soup course was being served. The bisque's aroma filled the air, saffron, cream, and secrets. Mother approached, her face pale. You didn't... Grandmother's exact recipe, I confirmed. The one she made the night she confronted you about the inheritance. William's father perked up. Inheritance? Don't, Mother warned. Why not? I challenged. Afraid everyone will learn how you stole your own daughter's trust funds? The room grew quiet. Hayden gripped William's arm, her knuckles white. That money was meant for our dreams, I continued. My restaurant, Hayden's law school. But you used it to control us instead. Is this true? William asked Hayden softly. She nodded, tears forming. They said I had to prove I deserved it, that I had to be perfect. Perfect enough to sabotage your sister's wedding. A new voice cut through the tension. Everyone turned. There stood Iris, elegant in a black dress, her silver hair styled impeccably. My grandmother, the famous food critic, finally revealed. Hello, Violet, she said to my mother. Your daughter's quite the chef. She understands that every dish tells a story. Mother stepped back. You have no right to be here. Actually, I do. I was invited. By the chef. Iris lifted a spoon of bisque. Exactly as I remember it. The night I discovered you'd stolen your daughter's future. The guests murmured. William's parents exchanged concerned looks. You disappeared, I said to Iris. Why? Because your mother gave me a choice. Leave, or she'd ensure neither of you received a penny of your inheritance. I left to build evidence, to become powerful enough to fight back. She gestured around the room. And now, thanks to your culinary skills, the truth is served. Hayden burst into tears. I only canceled her venue because Mother said, she said if I didn't prove my loyalty to the family, they'd pull their support for the wedding, for everything. Still manipulating your daughters, Violet? Iris's voice was sharp. Some recipes never change. The main course was due to go out, but the kitchen door remained closed. The room crackled with tension and unspoken words. William wrapped an arm around Hayden. We don't need their support. We never did. But the firm, the partnership, Hayden protested, was earned by your work, not their money. he said firmly. I watched my sister, really watched her, and saw something I'd missed before. She was as trapped as I had been, maybe more so. The main course, I announced, will be slightly delayed. I think we all need a moment to digest what's already been served. Iris touched my arm. Sometimes the best dishes are the ones that clear the palate for a fresh start. As the guests buzzed with gossip and shock, I caught Hayden's eye. For the first time in years, I saw my sister instead of my rival. And in her tear-streaked face, I saw the possibility of something I hadn't expected to find on my menu of revenge: reconciliation. I found Hayden in the Metropolitan's garden, mascara streaking down her cheeks. She sat on a stone bench, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. The lamb's getting cold, I said, sitting beside her. Is that really what you came to tell me? No. I handed her a napkin. I came to ask why you didn't just talk to me, about any of it. She dabbed at her eyes. How could I? You were always so free. You chose cooking over law school and actually made it work. I chose what they wanted and still wasn't good enough. Free? I laughed bitterly. I worked 3 jobs to open my restaurant because Mother blocked my access to my trust fund. That's not freedom, that's survival. At least you fought back. I just gave in, over and over. William appeared with 2 glasses of wine. Thought you both might need these. He sat on Hayden's other side. Your grandmother is quite something. She's in there giving your mother the dressing down of a lifetime. Good, I said, taking a sip. Someone needs to. Remember when we were kids? Hayden asked suddenly. Before all this, we used to sneak into grandmother's kitchen and steal cookie dough. And she'd pretend not to notice, but always had extra ready for us. What happened to us, Roz? Mother happened. Money happened. Fear happened. William squeezed Hayden's hand. Tell her about the partnership. Hayden took a shaky breath. I didn't earn it. Mother pulled strings, called in favors, said it was my last chance to prove I could be successful the right way. When you announced your wedding, she said I had to show where my loyalty lay. By ruining my wedding? By proving I'd choose family over you. God, it sounds so twisted saying it out loud. Inside, we could hear raised voices. Iris's commanding tone carried through the open windows. You stole their futures, Violet. And for what? Control? I should go back in, Hayden said, standing. Why? I caught her arm. To be the perfect daughter again? How's that working out? I don't know how to be anything else. Yes, you do. William stood. You're an incredible lawyer, Hayden. Not because of your mother's connections, but because you work harder than anyone I know. He's right, I admitted. Remember that pro bono case last year? The family about to lose their restaurant? You fought for them because you believed in it, not because Mother approved. Hayden's phone buzzed. Mother calling. She stared at it, then declined the call. That's a start, I said. I'm sorry, she whispered. About the venue, about everything. I was so scared of losing their support that I forgot what it meant to have yours. From inside, Mallory appeared at the window, gesturing urgently. Roslyn, the lamb. Come help me, I said to Hayden, like we used to help grandmother. She followed me to the kitchen, where my team was plating the main course. I handed her an apron. Here, start with the herb crust. I haven't cooked since we were kids. It's like riding a bike, a very expensive, perfectly seasoned bike. As we worked side by side, something shifted. The tension melted like butter in a hot pan. Hayden's hands remembered the motions, and soon we fell into a rhythm. Mother's going to hate this, she said, sprinkling herbs with growing confidence. Good. I adjusted a garnish. Maybe it's time we both stopped caring what she hates. What about the wedding? Your wedding? Honestly, I stepped back to survey our work. I'm thinking of eloping. Just me, Quentin, and a really great meal. Can I come? The question hung in the air, fragile as a souffle. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw past the perfect makeup and designer dress to the girl who used to sneak cookie dough with me. Only if you help cook, she smiled, a real smile this time. Deal. We carried the plates out together, a united front for the first time in years. Iris watched us with knowing eyes as we served each guest. Just like old times, she murmured as we passed. Mother sat rigid in her chair, her plate untouched. But around her, appreciative murmurs rose as people tasted the perfectly cooked lamb. "This is extraordinary," William's father announced. "Both of you did this?" "Family recipe," Hayden said, standing straighter. "Our grandmother taught us." And speaking of family recipes, Iris raised her glass. "I believe it's time for a new one without the bitter taste of manipulation." Mother pushed her chair back. "This is outrageous." "No, Mother," Hayden and I said in unison. "This is delicious." The room erupted in surprised laughter, and even William's straight-laced family cracked smiles. As I watched Hayden take her seat next to William, her head held high, I realized my revenge menu had transformed into something else entirely, a recipe for redemption. Dessert was meant to be the final act of my revenge play, but as I stood in the kitchen preparing grandmother's truth-teller's tiramisu, my hands trembled for a different reason. "Need help?" Hayden appeared beside me, still wearing the borrowed apron. "You remember how to make this?" "Layer the ladyfingers gently," she recited, reaching for the coffee-soaked cookies. "Too much pressure and they'll crumble. Just like family secrets," Iris said, entering the kitchen. She surveyed our work with practiced eyes. "Though some things are meant to crumble." Mother burst through the door. "Enough! This ends now." "Actually," I said, continuing to layer the dessert, "it's just beginning. Did you want to tell everyone about the trust funds, or should grandmother do the honors?" "You ungrateful." "Ungrateful?" Hayden's voice cracked like a whisk against a metal bowl. "We're ungrateful because we won't let you control us with money that was never yours? Everything I did was for your own good. Was it?" I stepped around the prep table. "Was it for our good when you made Hayden sabotage my wedding? When you threatened to pull her partnership if she didn't comply?" "I did what I had to do to keep this family together." "No," Iris cut in. "You did what you had to do to keep your grip on power, just like you did when you forced me out." The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of refrigerators. Through the window, we could see guests pretending not to watch our family drama unfold. "You want to know why I really left?" Iris asked, addressing both Hayden and me. "Your mother found out about the trust funds I'd set up. Money I'd earned from my restaurant reviews, saved for years. She threatened to contest my competency in court if I didn't sign everything over to her control." "Mother, you didn't," Hayden whispered. "Of course she did," I said, adding another layer to the tiramisu. "Because heaven forbid we make our own choices." "Choices?" Mother laughed sharply. "Like throwing away a law career for a kitchen? Like marrying beneath your station?" "Beneath our station?" William's voice made us all turn. He stood in the doorway, his face flushed. "Is that what you think of me?" "William, no." Hayden reached for him. "She doesn't—" "Actually," he said, "I want to hear this. Tell me, Violet, what exactly makes me beneath your station? My family's money? My own law practice? Or is it that I actually love your daughter for who she is, not who you want her to be?" Mother's face reddened. "You don't understand our family." "I understand perfectly," he interrupted. "I understand that you've manipulated both your daughters their entire lives. I understand that you stole their inheritance and used it as a weapon. And I understand that ends tonight." "You can't—" "Actually, I can." Iris pulled out her phone. "As the city's most respected food critic, I have quite a platform. Shall we discuss how you've been embezzling from your daughter's trust funds? I'm sure the legal community would be fascinated." Mother's perfectly maintained facade cracked. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." Iris's voice was as sharp as a chef's knife. "I've spent years documenting everything, building my reputation, waiting for the right moment. And thanks to Rosalind's brilliant menu tonight, that moment has arrived. I finished the final layer of the tiramisu with a dusting of cocoa powder. Dessert's ready." "You can't serve that," Mother protested. "Watch me." I lifted the first plate. "This is grandmother's recipe, the one she made the night she discovered your theft. Seems fitting to serve it now, don't you think?" Hayden grabbed serving plates. "I'll help." As we moved toward the dining room, Mother called out, "If you do this, you'll both be cut off. Completely." Hayden paused, then turned back. "You can't cut us off from money you never had the right to control." She pulled off her engagement ring. "And you can't control who I marry either. William and I will have our own wedding, our own way." With my catering, I added, winking at my sister. And my blessing, Iris said firmly. We pushed through the kitchen doors together, carrying truth and tiramisu to the waiting guests. Behind us, Mother stood frozen, her power melting like chocolate in a double boiler. William's mother rose as we entered. Everything all right? Better than all right, William said, taking a plate. We're finally serving honesty for dessert. As the guests tasted grandmother's famous tiramisu, I watched their faces. Each bite seemed to unlock another layer of understanding, of recognition that they'd witnessed something profound. To new beginnings, Iris raised her fork, and to my granddaughters, who finally learned that the sweetest revenge is living well. Hayden squeezed my hand under the table. Think we can cook together again sometime? Definitely, I said. But next time, let's skip the family drama and just make cookies. Deal, she smiled. Though I have to admit, revenge tastes pretty sweet. That's not revenge you're tasting, Iris corrected. That's freedom. The morning after the engagement party, my restaurant's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Word had spread about the dramatic dinner, and suddenly everyone wanted a taste of the infamous menu. Table for two under the name William, my hostess called out. I looked up from the reservation book to find William and Hayden, both looking surprisingly cheerful for people whose engagement party had imploded spectacularly. Please tell me you're not here to yell at me, I said. Actually, Hayden pulled out a folder. We're here with a proposition. We sat at my favorite corner table, the morning sun streaming through the windows. A waiter brought coffee without being asked. I've been thinking, Hayden said, spreading papers across the table, about what I really want to do with my law degree. Let me guess, not corporate law? Restaurant law, she grinned. Specifically, helping independent restaurants navigate legal challenges. And I want to start with helping you and grandmother recover the trust funds. William nodded. We've been up all night reviewing the documentation Iris provided. Your mother's financial manipulation wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. Speaking of mother, I stirred my coffee. Has anyone heard from her? She's locked herself in the house, Hayden said, but her lawyer called this morning. They want to negotiate. Of course they do. I picked up one of the documents. What's this? A business proposal. Hayden's eyes sparkled. Remember how we used to talk about opening a restaurant together when we were kids, before Mother pushed me toward law school? You want to open a restaurant now? Not exactly. I want to partner with you. I'll handle the legal side, you handle the food. We'll create a place that combines both our talents. And I'll help with the business plan, William added. My family's actually excited about investing. They were impressed by both of you last night. The kitchen door swung open, and Iris emerged carrying a plate. Try this. She set down what looked like a deconstructed apple pie. I call it family reconstruction, broken pieces coming together in a new way. You're cooking in my kitchen? I raised an eyebrow. Our kitchen, if you accept my proposal, too. She sat down. I'm retiring from food criticism, but I'm not done with food. I want to join forces with my granddaughters. My phone buzzed. Mother calling again. I declined it. She'll keep trying, Hayden warned. Let her. I tasted Iris's dessert, the familiar flavors of childhood mixed with something new, a hint of unexpected spice. This is amazing. Like us, Hayden said. Familiar ingredients, new recipe. The door chimed and Mallory rushed in. Have you seen the Times? Iris's final review just dropped. She thrust the paper at us. There, in bold print, A Tale of Two Sisters. How family drama created the city's most exciting new culinary experience. You reviewed the engagement party? I stared at Iris. I reviewed the truth, she corrected, and announced my retirement. But more importantly, I announced my investment in a new venture, a restaurant that combines culinary artistry with social justice, run by my talented granddaughters. You're going to help fund it? Hayden asked. With my own money this time. Iris smiled. No manipulation, no control, just support. The door chimed again. Mother stood there, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. Well, Iris said calmly, this should be interesting. Girls, Mother stepped forward. We need to talk. About what? I stood. About how you stole our futures, or about how you tried to control us with money that was never yours. About making this right. She pulled out a check. I've transferred everything back to the trust funds, with interest. Why now? Hayden demanded. Because, Mother's voice cracked. Because I read Iris's review. Because I saw what my actions have done to my family. Because I don't want to lose my daughters. You already lost us, I said. The question is whether you want to try earning us back. Without conditions, Hayden added. Without control. Mother looked at the apple dessert on our table, then at each of us. I don't know how to do that. Then maybe, Iris said, it's time for you to learn a new recipe. I picked up Hayden's business proposal. We're starting something new, Mother. You can either support us genuinely or watch from the sidelines, but you can't control it. We're done with manipulation, Hayden said firmly. All of us. Mother nodded slowly, then placed the check on the table. Consider this a first ingredient in a new dish, if you'll let me try. I looked at Hayden, then at Iris. They nodded. Sit down, I said finally. Have some coffee. We've got some cooking to do. As Mother joined us, I realized that sometimes the best recipes aren't written down. Sometimes they're created in the moment, with equal parts forgiveness and determination, seasoned with truth, and served with hope. The sign painter finished the last swooping letter, Truth and Time, where family recipes tell stories. Through the front window of our new restaurant, I watched the morning sun catch the gold leaf, making it shimmer. Stop obsessing, Hayden nudged me. It's perfect. Like your wedding dress? I teased. She smoothed her simple white sundress. Exactly like my wedding dress. No frills, no drama, just us. We'd transformed an old brownstone into something magical, a restaurant on the ground floor, a legal office upstairs where Hayden already had 3 independent restaurants as clients. The kitchen gleamed with new equipment, funded by our recovered trust funds and legitimate family support this time. The first guest will be here soon, Quentin reminded me, adjusting his tie. You ready? For my sister's wedding brunch, or for opening day? Both, Iris said, emerging from the kitchen with a tray of pastries. Though I'd say you've been ready for this your whole life. William arrived with his parents, who had become surprisingly strong allies. His mother hugged both Hayden and me. The place looks wonderful, and so much more meaningful than some stuffy hotel ballroom. Mother was the last to arrive, carrying a wrapped package. She'd spent the past weeks in therapy, learning to loosen her grip. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Before we open, she said, I want to give you both something. Inside the package was a photo album. Not the polished, perfect family portraits she used to insist on, but candid shots from our childhood, Hayden and me covered in flour in grandmother's kitchen, both of us trying on chef hats, our first attempts at baking. I forgot about these, Hayden whispered. I didn't, Mother said. I just forgot what they meant, what really matters. The first guests began arriving, friends, family, food critics, all properly disclosed as Iris insisted. Each table received a menu card explaining the significance of every dish. Welcome to Truth and Time, I addressed the room. Today we're celebrating many things. A wedding, a opening, a reunion. Each dish tells part of our story, but more importantly, they represent where we're going, not just where we've been. Hayden squeezed my hand as the first course went out. Those infamous stuffed mushrooms, but with a new twist. Instead of hiding secrets, I explained, these reveal possibilities. The filling changes daily, always a surprise, always honest. William raised his glass. To possibilities. And to truth, Hayden added, even when it's hard to swallow. Mother stood, her hands trembling slightly. I'd like to say something. She took a deep breath. I spent years trying to control the narrative of our family. But the best stories, like the best recipes, come from freedom to experiment, to fail, to succeed on your own terms. I'm sorry it took me so long to learn that. Iris caught my eye and nodded. I brought out a special plate, a recreation of her truth-teller's tiramisu, but with a note tucked beside it. The secret ingredient was always love. As everyone ate, I watched the room. William's parents chatting easily with Mother about their upcoming joint venture. Hayden showing a young chef her legal templates for restaurant startups. Quentin and Iris debating the perfect coffee-to-liqueur ratio for tiramisu. Hey, Hayden pulled me aside. Remember when you were planning revenge instead of reconciliation? Funny how recipes change. Speaking of change, she grinned. I'm pregnant. I nearly dropped my spoon. What, does William know? Not yet. I'm telling him today. Think you can handle being an aunt? Only if I get to teach the kid how to bake. Deal, but no revenge recipes. Promise, only healing ones from now on. The sun climbed higher, streaming through our front window and illuminating the sign. Below it, we'd added a smaller line. A Parker family creation. All 3 generations listed as founders. Mother approached us, holding her dessert plate. This tiramisu, it's different from before. Better? I asked. More honest, she said. Like us. Hayden hugged her impulsively. Want to hear something honest? You're going to be a grandmother. Mother's eyes filled with tears. Real ones, not the manipulative kind we'd grown up with. Really? Really, and we're going to do it differently. All of us. I raised my glass, gathering everyone's attention. To family recipes, the ones we inherit, the ones we create, and the ones we're still discovering. To truth, Iris added. To time. Hayden winked. To both, Mother said softly. And to second chances. The room hummed with conversation and laughter, the kind that can't be forced or manipulated. Through the kitchen door, I could see my team preparing for our first official service, each dish designed to tell a story of its own. But the best story was right here, in the way Hayden's hand rested on her stomach, in Mother's genuine smile, in Iris's proud eyes, in the simple truth that sometimes the sweetest revenge is no revenge at all. It's letting go, moving forward, and creating something new from the ingredients life gives you. Even if some of those ingredients were bitter at first,